Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers. Sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A737 between Elliston Road and Red House Roundabout faces delays due to a road traffic incident, with caution advised. Essex's A12 northbound between junction 18 and 19 is partially blocked by a load spillage. In Wiltshire, a collision on the M4 eastbound between junction 17 and 16 causes partial lane closures. The A2 eastbound in Kent between the junctions with the A20 and the M25 reports a road collision with lane closures. And on the trains, disruptions continue on the Avanti West Coast between Wigan, North Western and Preston. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
We're kick-starting summer with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? For a chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World. Tonight on the show we have Emma Wolfe, writer and journalist. She's going head-to-head with former Labour MP Lloyd Russell Moyle. We've also got property entrepreneur Sheila Smith and musical legend Jamie Goddard. But first, let's go to the news.
Good evening. It's just after 7 o'clock. Here are your latest GB News headlines. Israel has targeted one of Iran's most significant nuclear facilities in a fresh wave of strikes. This comes as Iran branded Israel's attack last night as a declaration of war. Israel says its new offensive has only just begun, targeting scientists it claims are working on Iran's nuclear weapons program. In response, Iran launched around 100 drones as Tehran's supreme leader vows punishment after key commanders and nuclear scientists were killed. Sir Keir Starmer has spoken to the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, this afternoon, following last night's events. Downing Street says the Prime Minister was clear that Israel has a right to defend itself and set out the UK's grave concerns about Iran's nuclear programme. The PM did reiterate the need for de-escalation and a diplomatic resolution. The sole survivor of an Air India crash has spoken from his hospital bed, saying he watched people dying in front of his eyes. The British national said the plane felt like it was struck in the air before crashing into a medical college in Ahmedabad, killing 241 people. Tributes are pouring in as investigators search for answers. One black box has now been recovered as UK and US teams are joining the inquiry. There's been a fourth night of unrest in Northern Ireland as bricks and beer kegs were thrown at police officers in Portdown. The violence follows a peaceful protest in Ballymena on Monday over an alleged sexual assault, but police say it was hijacked by racist thugs. 41 officers have been injured while families had to hide in attics, and a leisure centre used as a shelter was torched. More than 15 arrests have been made so far. 7 men who sexually exploited 2 13-year-old girls in Rochdale have been convicted at Manchester Crown Court. The court were told the men groomed their victims as sex slaves, exploiting their vulnerabilities through a campaign of manipulation, which occurred between 2001 and 2006. The 7 men now await sentencing for their crimes. Patients in England are the first in the world to receive a new Trojan horse therapy that targets blood cancer with pinpoint precision. It works by smuggling toxic chemotherapy directly into myeloma cells, sparing healthy ones and cutting side effects. Clinical trials show it can halt the disease for nearly 3 times longer than current treatments. Around 1,500 patients a year could benefit. Doctors say this could be the start of a new era in cancer treatment. Well, those are your latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Lewis Mackenzie. More from me in an hour's time.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World. I'm Lee Anderson, the Reform UK Member of Parliament for Ashfield, and tonight he's back, he's on the show. It's not Matthew Stadlin, it's another left in the corner. That's Lloyd Russell Moyle. He's back. He's going to irritate the hell out of you tonight. And he's coming up against our very, very lovely Emma Wolf, who's a writer, broadcaster, journalist, just
whatever.
Jack of all trades. Look, we saw some very distressing scenes this week in Buckingham Palace. Something that really, really triggered me, got me shaking and frothing at the mouth, and that was Sadiq Khan getting knighted. And not just that, guys, that wasn't enough for him. When he came out the palace, this is what he said. Have a look at this clip now.
Well, I've got the pleasure of working closely with the King. We were just comparing who's the bigger workaholic. He was very chuffed that he'd managed to personally give me this honour, and he actually apologised for it taking so long, which is not a problem at all.
Now, Emma, I can see you're frothing as well. I mean, is this our Mayor of London being very humble about the situation, or just bleating on about his own self-importance?
This was embarrassing. You used the word distressing. Not a shred of humility. Nothing from Sadiq Khan about the honour that's just been conferred on him of a knighthood. I mean, if this doesn't discredit, you know, our honour system, I don't know what does. Did you see the way he said that about, he had to drop in that the King had been really, really busy, but he personally wanted to knight the mayor, and that they were both workaholics, you know, they both, absolutely nothing. More hubris from Sadiq Khan. And for what? What has he been knighted for? What on earth?
Services to ruining London. Now, Sadiq Khan,
arrogance of the man for turning London into stab city, into mobile phone theft city. Did you know gun crime is occurring? What is it? Every 30 minutes. Knife crime every 30 minutes. Gun crime is up 31% in the last 12 months. There are rapes happening. There are phones being stolen every 6 seconds. He has wrecked our roads. He has increased traffic and congestion and pollution. He's introduced, without any consultation, as far as I can see, and I'm a Londoner, as far as I can see, without consultation, ULEZ has been expanded across all of London. We've got things like low traffic neighbourhoods. If it was working, if it was reducing pollution, we would all say, wonderful.
Please calm down a little bit, Emma.
Green
James, pass Emma the tablets, please. Just calm.
Can I just say he's increasing traffic, congestion and pollution.
Did you know? I've got a
making
question
London unlivable.
Because I think it might be blood pressure. Did you know you cannot make a phone call on your mobile phone in London now? Because by the time you've got it out of your pocket, somebody's whipped it. Lloyd, come on, you've got to fight back on this one. You've got your head in your hands, a bit like I had when this so-called mayor got knighted.
He is the most successful mayor electorally. I mean, I'm not saying you can disagree or agree on policies, but he is the most successful mayor electorally that London has ever had. And if you go back even further, he is the longest-serving London leader, if you count the GLA, GLC periods. He is very successful in that sense. He clearly does win a large mandate every time. And yes, he might rub up one or two people the wrong way, but I think that actually, I don't want bland politicians that are only triangulating all the time. I want politicians that are committed to turning Oxford Street into a pedestrian haven and a shopper's paradise for the future. I want politicians that are committed to expanding transport links across the city, both in terms of the expansion of a Bakerloo line and a new Crossrail. I want politicians that are going to be making sure London is open for all, and it is a tourist and a home for everyone around the world. That's the kind of thing I want.
Lloyd, it's clear you didn't grow up in London.
And that's why he's got a knighthood.
It's clear that he has never spoken to a cabbie to say that he's unpopular, that Sadiq Khan is unpopular with a couple of people. And you know what, Lee? There is no time limit to this man. He could go for a 4th term, a 5th term, and a 6th term.
If people keep voting for him, if he's popular.
Just
if you
like
believe,
Putin,
if
no
you
time
believe
limit.
he is so unpopular, if you believe he's so unpopular, why don't you stand against him and let's see what the public believe? Because I bet my bottom dollar you will not win.
Lloyd's thrown the gauntlet down, but Lloyd said earlier that he'd turned London into a shopper's paradise. Honestly, and he said that with a straight face.
I know. Have you been to Oxford Street recently? Have you seen the lovely shops? And Lloyd, with respect, I grew up in London.
New IKEA, that's great. I love that new IKEA.
Bit of respect. I grew up in London. I cannot tell you how Oxford Street has changed from a place with really, really thriving, lovely retail, fantastic shops, a couple of department stores. Everything is closing down. You get these
We've
tiny...
just had 2 new shops open on Oxford Street. Big shops, big chains.
What, candy stores from America and a Turkish barbers, or what?
Look, there are not candy stores and Turkish barbers opening up on Oxford Street.
Not yet.
But actually, I also don't have a problem with a few candy shops and barbers. I think they serve a purpose. And,
for money laundering.
Exactly.
You say that, but where there is money laundering evidence, it needs to be cracked down on. But where they are providing a good service for tourists that want candy shops, then that's great.
And Lloyd, why does the Mayor of London spend all his time travelling abroad to other countries on junkets and jollies? Shouldn't he be focusing on London and all the problems we've got here?
We want a salesperson for our capital. We want someone who is selling us around the world and making sure that we're getting the investment that we need into our city. And if he wasn't going...
I'll tell you what I've seen, Lloyd. Not so much the investment, the amount of tents and tent cities now cropping up around London. We've seen it on Park Lane. We've now got it on the embankment opposite the House of Parliament.
On the embankment, you've got it opposite our major leading London hospitals. UCLH, if you look opposite UCLH, you've got people, encampments. It's not just the odd tent or the odd homeless person, and I don't think anyone chooses. Forget what Suella Braverman says, forget what Angela Rayner's been saying. I don't think anyone chooses to live a desperate, difficult, wretched, cold, crime-ridden life on the streets. I have nothing but compassion for homeless people. But when you see this all over London, and Sadiq Khan, he's fine with that?
All over the UK. If you go in towns, small, medium towns up and down this country now, you see homeless people on the street that you never saw 15 years ago. And that is because 15 years of absolute disgraceful housing policy of the Conservatives and demonisation of homeless people.
But
the taking away of proper housing
benefits. And all
benefits
these new
for people,
homes that Rachel Reeves is planning to build.
And all that takes a long time to turn around.
There, I wonder.
You know what, I can sort of not accept, but I understand why we do have the odd homeless British veteran on the streets, our own young people. I've worked with homeless people in the past, but what really gets people's goats is when they go to one of these encampments, and it's normally in the cities, like it is on Park Lane or it is on opposite Parliament now, you can't hear an English voice anywhere. These are people that probably come over illegally, and they're setting up these camps. They shouldn't be here, Lloyd. They shouldn't be in the first place, and these camps should definitely not be in our cities and towns. I don't want these people...
People who are illegally here need to be removed, people who don't have permissions, but there are many people who are legally here who get into hard times, but because they came here as a care worker, for example, don't have recourse to public funds and end up living on the street. That is the system that your government, when you were in that party, introduced. And what we would like to see is a change to that system. If you've paid taxes into the system, we should be able to make sure that you're not living homeless, because you will contribute much better if you live in a permanent
You know
house.
what I mean? You know, London used to be the greatest city in the world. And I still like to say that sometimes, but, you know, I say it...
Why do you talk down London all the
convinced.
time? You're talking down our country and our capital.
Just being
We're
honest.
not. We're being honest.
Being
We're
honest,
being
Lloyd.
honest, because if we keep
Talking
going
it
like
down.
this...
You're telling the world that it's dangerous. It's not. Compared to other places around the world, compared to other places around the UK, it is not some awful crime-ridden den. That's not the truth. But that's the message you're sending around to the world, and you're selling our country short, and you'll stop tourists coming here, you'll stop investment here, you'll run down our country by the language you're using.
Lloyd, if you keep pretending that everything is OK, then you will never, ever be able to tackle the problems. This is the experience of Londoners. This is the experience of people who come to the city and see how it's changed. I know so many people who used to come here and love coming to London, love coming to our capital city.
Yeah.
I've lived here all my life. I couldn't love it more. But it has changed out of all recognition. And when you try and give the credit to that, to Sadiq Khan getting a knighthood for this stuff...
Let me tell you...
Then again, the bar for knighthoods is pretty low these days.
Low. I mean, Sadiq Khan, he claims... I heard him say last year that he didn't feel safe in London. This is a man who's responsible for the police. Yep. He's got 24-hour protection, bulletproof car, bodyguards, a lot, panic alarms, and he doesn't feel safe. How does he think?
He was talking about his daughters. Well, how does he think the rest of us...
Exactly.
How does he think those of us with little boys feel? Yeah. What is it going to be like in 10 years' time for teenage boys growing up in this country? Honestly, Sadiq Khan has a lot to answer for. If he doesn't feel safe, how is anyone... How's a vulnerable pensioner meant to feel?
Yeah. Lloyd,
you know?
Let's be honest, mate. He's given our capital city away, hasn't he?
I don't buy that at all. London has always been a city of churn, and if you look the rest of the country, London often is that body that processes the money, processes people who come to our country, and then they resettle out to the rest of the country, contribute, and it's absolutely fantastic. And I think Sadiq has continued that well-earned tradition. But I am not a voting Londoner. I live in Brighton, as people know. And the people who will decide are the voters of London who thrice have decided that they want him leading them and not the Conservatives or Reform or whomever who spout off about anti-ULEZ stuff, and in reality that's not the issue on the doorstep that people care about.
Spouting off, Emma, is a bit harsh, isn't it?
To be honest, I think we need to get a handle on this. We cannot have Sadiq Khan in office in London forever and ever and ever. Someone needs to get a grip on this.
Final word, young man.
I trust the people and the electorate elected him.
And I trust the Labour Party branch in Brighton, who didn't select you, young man, to stand last time. Well, we don't know what happened, but coming up next, we've got property entrepreneur Sheila Smith.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
It's been a long old time now. Other missing cases. How do we prioritise that? Despite, obviously, you know, Madeleine McCann being one of the most high-profile mysteries of my lifetime, for sure. I think I think you're right to point out, though, that if there is even the remotest of chances that... because sometimes an individual case can symbolise and mean something more in the public consciousness than in isolation. And I think this is such a case. It's something that I think people still deeply care about. So if there's any remote chance, I think they've got to go for it.
Well, let's hope something is found. These searches as we know, are going to continue until Friday, unless, of course, fresh evidence is found, in which case they will continue.
I take it all sort of quite personally because we holidayed in the area. I had children the same age at the time, and there used to be posters in the airport, you know, asking, have you seen this girl and whatever. And my kids were very aware of it, you know, and you'd point out and talk about it and whatever. So I often think it could have been as easy one of my children involved in all of this, and you do take it personally.
And I think a lot of people in the country would feel that way. It's in the nation's psyche, isn't it, Madeleine McCann?
Yeah.
We all know her, we know her face, we feel as though we know her as a little girl. I think everybody would like to have answers as to what happened to her.
Right, OK, so the Portuguese police are saying about this, the search warrant was issued by the Public Prosecutor's Office in Germany, which is conducting preliminary proceedings against a German citizen suspected of the murder of a British citizen, Madeleine Beth McCann.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
please bring us up to date.
Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Lee Anderson's Real World. It's time for Real World, Real People. Let's see what real people are thinking about. They don't come much realer. Is that Real World? Realer than Sheila Smith. Property entrepreneur. And what's this Behomed property firm that you run? What is that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Behomed is helping renters become homeowners. So they can move into a property now and rent to buy it simultaneously over a time, with a portion of their rent going to buy the house at the end of the rental term. And they've got the option to buy that, so they're not locked in.
So who actually owns the house when these people move in?
So there are several different ways we can do it. On the one hand, we work with landlords. So my company, Behomed, would lease the property from a landlord for a long lease, and that could be a period of years. It could be 3 years, it could be between 3 and 7 years, say.
Yeah.
And then we'll put a carefully vetted tenant buyer to make sure that we're the stepping stone between not being able to get a traditional mortgage now to being able to get a traditional mortgage in the future. So then we are not actually in this scenario, we're not buying the property, the tenant is buying directly from the landlord.
But that landlord has got to want to sell the property.
Yes, 100%, but it's the perfect storm for landlords wanting to leave the market right now.
Got you.
The rising mortgage costs.
Yes.
We've got the renters reform, we've got the EPC regulations coming in, so
it's like a transition from having your rental property to selling it in a sort of nice way.
Absolutely, and then you save having to have a void, because if you're selling on the open market right now, you've got to tell your tenant to move, and then it can take months potentially to sell that property, and then the conveyancing might take 4 to 6 months. So you're potentially, as a landlord, sitting on a void of at least 6 months.
But the rental market, though, Sheila, is coming under a lot of pressure at the moment, because we see, especially in my industry, in politics, that we see that Serco are going around the country hoovering up all these rental properties, offering landlords 5-7 year contracts. They'll pay the rent for 5 years for the illegal migrants are staying, pay all the bills, and then renovate the property once they've moved out. How does that affect your business?
So that doesn't really affect my business, because they're working with a different type of client. The type of client that I'm working with tenants, aspiring homeowners, people that want to become homeowners, but are locked out of the traditional mortgage market right now. So that might be because they haven't quite saved up enough deposit, or they might not have a credit score. So a lot of women are coming to me that have recently got divorced, but the family home has been in their husband's name, so they just don't have the kind of credit score that a mortgage company needs. Or it could be somebody that's new to the country who doesn't currently qualify for a mortgage yet, or self-employed. I mean, the mortgage companies
I've been reading your notes earlier, as I do, because I'm diligent. Not.
That's always good.
How does the incident, the horrific 9/11 incident, tie into all this sort of stuff you're doing at the moment?
So I lived in America for a number of years. My parents moved there when I was in high school. They said, would you like to go to boarding school in England or high school in America? And my sister and I were high school in America, obviously.
Yeah.
So I went to university over there and worked in the design industry. And so quite a difference, and was working in New York.
Yeah.
And during that horrific time, I remember that day very well, and it made me reevaluate everything, because New York became a very difficult place to be after that horrific attack, and lots of people left New York, and it made me think that I wanted to do more than be doing my design.
So was you there that day when it happened?
I was in New York that day. I remember very specifically I was a little bit late to work, and I left my apartment door, and my landlord, who lived next door, happened to be there and said, don't think you're going to work today. I was like, what are you talking about? He said, just go in and turn the TV on. Wow. And I spent the rest of the morning riveted to the TV and just watching things unfold.
Yeah, because I've actually been by the site of the Twin Towers, and we went by on a bus. I think it was last year we went with the Home Affairs Select Committee. And you couldn't tell there was actually a building there, because it's so small, isn't it, really, the area where the towers are. Yeah.
So I mean, they were obviously very tall.
Tall buildings, but the area what they're in is quite small.
Yeah.
So how did that impact you then, moving forward that day?
So I decided in the subsequent months that it was time for me to move back to England. So I spent a year travelling around Southeast Asia by myself, and the poverty there was much more extreme.
When you say poverty, tell me about the poverty, because we talk about poverty levels in the UK, and I always say you don't know what real poverty is. You know, go to one of these third world countries. What sort of things did you see, Sheila?
No sanitation for a start, and then just the slum towns of little huts built out of corrugated iron, just stretching into the distance, and there's a lot of disease there. But the thing that really struck me is that people are really happy there, and as a traveller by myself, I was quite often invited into people's homes, and I knew that they had nothing, but they would still give me a drink, or they would still feed me. And it just was very heartwarming, and it just made me really think about things in a different way. But it absolutely made me realise that I wanted to do something positive in the world, to give back and make my corner of the world a better place.
So would you ever think of returning to these places and giving something back to these places rather than staying in this country?
Absolutely. In fact, that's a very good question, because I have worked for a number of years with the Hunger Project, and that is an ethos that I've really brought into my own business, because their ethos is sustainable change in those kind of communities.
Teach a man to fish, that sort of thing.
Exactly that. And it's all about a hand up instead of a handout.
Yeah, I get that.
And that's the exact ethos that I'm bringing to home.
And perhaps we should bring some of that ethos back into this country, because I've had a few debates on this subject.
Yeah.
A hand up, not a handout. Sheila, that has been fascinating. Now, time is up. Coming up next, we've got right versus left.
Well, good evening. We are actually interrupting Lee Anderson's show to bring you the breaking news. As you can see, there are plumes of smoke above Tel Aviv in Israel this evening as Iran has launched retaliatory strikes. It comes after Israel struck dozens of targets in Iran, including nuclear facilities, military sites and private residences believed to be holding key Iranian military and political personnel. They killed many of them. Iran has been saying all day that they were going to retaliate. Their quote was that everyone will feel it. You're listening to sirens there in Tel Aviv. We believe that the first wave of that retaliation has now happened. It's not clear if there have been any casualties on the ground, but in Tel Aviv there are plumes of smoke around the skyscrapers in the city. It's not clear at the moment if these were from missiles or interceptions, or if there's frankly something in between, whether or not those missiles were intercepted and then did just plunge to the ground. Israel did say that it destroyed nuclear infrastructure in Isfahan in Iran. They attacked there in an operation yesterday. The IDF said that it destroyed a facility for producing metallic uranium, infrastructure for converting enriched uranium, laboratories and additional infrastructure. The Iranians confirmed that there had been multiple casualties. These include several top military personnel. For example, Mohammad Bagheri was the highest-ranking military officer in Iran. He'd been the chief of staff for Iran's armed forces. We had Hossein Salami as well. He was the commander-in-chief. There's also Gholam Ali Rashid, who was the head of the central headquarters for the Iranian regime, and several others as well. They also managed to kill several nuclear scientists in Iran. By the last count, there was at least 4 who were essentially executed by the Israelis yesterday for their role in, the Israelis believe, helping to make sure that Iran can obtain nuclear weapons. So I'm just going to give you the very latest. This is hundreds of ballistic missiles were launched from Iran towards Israel. This is marking the start of Tehran's response to intensive Israeli strikes. Now, that's what Iranian media have reported. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, says that Israel started the strikes and initiated a war. So we're seeing tit for tat here, not just militarily, but also in terms of rhetoric. The Israelis say that they were left with absolutely no choice but to attack Iran. And they say that because they think that Iran may well have been planning an invasion of Israel from land, air and sea. They say that they had the evidence for that. They say that President Trump, the head of the United States of America, was tipped off about this as long ago, potentially as Monday, definitely by Wednesday, he was aware of it. So the US have said that they weren't going to get involved in that first round of attacks. The understanding that I have is that both Iran and Britain have said that they are willing to defend Israel, i.e. defend them from some kind of attack, presumably like the one that we're seeing now, but they weren't willing to be part of that initial attack. So we'll have to wait and see what happens now. But the latest that I'm receiving here from Reuters is that hundreds of ballistic missiles have been launched from Iran towards Israel. And the scenes that you're seeing now on your television screens are plumes of smoke above Tel Aviv. We are not 100% sure yet whether or not that means that anything actually hit or whether that's from some kind of interception and then those missiles crashing down to earth. Of course, Israel does have that incredible Iron Dome. I am actually now just seeing additional footage which is coming through on social media from that landing site. And from what I can see, it does seem as though some missiles did manage to pierce that Iron Dome and then crash down into the centre of Tel Aviv. Our Home and Security Editor, Mark White, is ready for us. Mark, thank you very much. What do you know about what we're seeing here?
Well, you're looking at those live images of Tel Aviv tonight with a plume of smoke that has risen over one of the sites where either a direct missile strike occurred or perhaps the debris of a missile has fallen. We have seen there are images that are now circulating. I think the Reuters camera live shot may have captured some of it, where you can see a significant number of impacts on the ground in central Tel Aviv, with the subsequent sort of explosions on the ground as those either missiles or parts, components of missiles land. Because basically what happens, Patrick, is that you have a system, of course, we're all familiar, we've heard so much about the Iron Dome system, but that's a system that Israel had set up to deal with the kind of threats of lower moving munitions from Gaza, from southern Lebanon, the likes of rocket fire, mortars, slower moving missiles. when you're dealing with ballistic missiles, as these are, according to the Israel Defense Forces, they are moving so fast, they go up into space and then come down. And in the terminal phase of that, plummet to Earth, they reach enormous speeds. They're very difficult to actually shoot out of the sky once they re-enter the atmosphere and head back down again. And so what the system is, you can see from those images there, some interceptions over Tel Aviv, but one of those right down there on the ground there impacting. Now, that may well have been a fragment of the missile rather than actually a ballistic missile explosion as such, because although, of course, there is an explosion, it's part of a missile, and it will have been carrying fuel and the like, the warhead of a ballistic missile would cause a very significant explosion. So that may be the after effects of missiles being detected. We'll have to wait to get word from the IDF. As I was just saying, Patrick, though, what they have to do, they've got the Arrow system now, which, you've got missiles that go up into space that meet these ballistic missiles just before they turn to come down on that terminal phase of the mission to the ground and take them out basically above the Earth's atmosphere. It is still quite spectacular. You can see the flashes up in the sort of ionosphere right above the Earth there as they're being dealt with. But some real concern as we continue to watch these images that there will be other waves of ballistic missiles launched from Iran tonight, Patrick.
Yes, indeed, Mark. What are the ramifications of what we're looking at here now? So it is the first wave, you think, of a series of ballistic missile attacks. What are the consequences to this going to be?
Well, look, this is a showdown that everyone had feared for a good number of years as Iran embarked on that nuclear program. It says for entirely peaceful purposes. Few believe that it's doing anything other than trying to obtain a nuclear weapon. And in fact, the US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said that just a couple of days ago as talks aimed at trying to find a solution to the nuclear ambitions of Iran in a peaceful way rather than what's playing out now. We're getting nowhere. Clearly, President Trump was frustrated. Pete Hegseth said that the US were absolutely clear that Iran is embarking on an effort to build a nuclear weapon, a nuclear bomb. And we heard from Benjamin Netanyahu just in recent hours saying that actually Iran was within a year at most, possibly months, of actually building nuclear bombs. They have enough enriched uranium to build 9 nuclear weapons at present and more as they are allowed, if they were allowed to continue this enrichment program.
OK, Mark, look, very shortly, we are hoping to go to inside a bomb shelter in Tel Aviv. A regular face on GB News, Benjamin Butterworth, is currently in Israel and is in a bomb shelter and is trying to get through to us. So I might have to cut you off in a moment, Mark, I'm afraid, if we can get some signal there. This is... Can I just ask... In fact, sorry, Mark, we are going to go to Benjamin Butterworth now. Please stay where you are for me, please, Mark. So we're going live now to Tel Aviv, where Benjamin Butterworth is inside a bomb shelter. Benjamin, can you hear me?
Hi, Patrick.
Hi, are you OK?
Yeah, so about, 20 minutes ago now, the sirens went off here in Tel Aviv, and the sirens in the streets, but also all of our phones got a critical alert saying that we had 90 seconds to get into the protected area, in other words, the bomb shelter. And I was at a Shabbat dinner, and everybody made it safely down. It's fair to say that for Israelis who live here, the nature of this is fairly usual, but what's happening now is completely unusual. There is definitely tension in the air. For me, as someone who's never experienced this, I feel safe in the sense that you have the Iron Dome, and that I'm in a bomb shelter below a tall building at the moment. But you can hear the missiles. At first, we thought it was doors of the building closing, but it's not. It's the thunder that goes through the building of the missiles that you're seeing on your screen outside.
Gosh, OK, so you had a 90-second warning, and then what happens? Everyone just scarpers down to the bomb shelter. Benjamin, sorry, stay where you are, literally stay where you are, please. But I'll come back to you because I've got some more breaking news on this now from our Home Security Editor, Mark White. Mark, what have you got for us? Oh, sorry. OK, well, we'll get him on, don't worry. But what I've been told, anyway, is that we think there's been more missile launches in the last couple of moments there. So we'll go back to Mark in a second. But, yeah, what I was told was that we had some breaking news about some more missile launches. Mark, sorry, there you go. Go on.
Patrick. Yes, listen, as feared, sorry, Benjamin, we'll obviously get back to you in a second, but Home Front Command have just put out an alert saying due to the detection of missile launches towards Israel, alerts may be activated in southern Negev, Lachish, Dead Sea, and a lot of other areas all around central Israel. These ballistic missiles do not take long at all to make that journey from Iran to Israel. So watch in the coming minutes for more alarms to sound, probably over Tel Aviv, but very worrying. A second wave of ballistic missiles, it seems, on its way to Israel.
I want to get back to Benjamin now. Roughly how long do you think it might take for if they've just launched then? Are we talking minutes, are we? Oh, OK, we're back with Benjamin already. There you go. Sorry, Benjamin. OK, well, we'll go to you now. So, sorry, I don't know if you heard that, but well, potentially quite bad news for you and everyone who's around you at the moment. That it appears that more ballistic missiles are on the way. So, I mean, do you think you're going to be all right there, are you?